Good evening, everyone. Good evening, all of you. A very good evening to all of you. Today, we are going to discuss the Indian Economic Service Examination of 2024, paper General Economics 3, and we are going to importantly highlight on the very unique type of questions and the different style of questions that had arrived this year, right? So we are going to begin very soon. Let us just wait for a minute. If there are more students who want to attend this live, we can just start in a minute. And I hope that my voice is clear to you all, and the PPT and myself, my screen, everything is visible to you all. Yes, if it's a yes, just write yes in the chat box so that we can start quickly with this session. Today we are going to highlight some very important things that um, have been a part of this year's paper, UPSC Indian Economic Service Examination of the year 2024. Plenty of topics, plenty of um, terminologies, plenty of theories and concepts to study, and yes, which gives us this examination. And this paper had a variety of aspects, but of course I'm going to discuss with you the difficulty level, the amount of the perspective that you needed to have with this paper, and what kind of paper this year they had given, right? So we are going to discuss everything, and we are also going to include a lot of questions that had appeared this year, a variety of unique questions that had appeared this year and how they were different. So we are going to include all of that. Okay, so let us begin. All right. Okay, good evening everyone. Okay, now firstly, let me talk about the paper and the objectivity of this paper. Now we all usually divide every paper into easy, moderate and difficult. Every time we ponder and we think that, okay, what type of paper was it? Was it an easy paper? Was it a difficult paper? Was it a moderate paper? So I would consider that the General Economics 3 paper was an easy paper. Easy with respect to the UPSC standard. Okay, there are different versions of easy, of course, but here we are talking from the UPSC perspective and the UPSC standard. So this paper, specifically General Economics 3 paper, was an easier one, because of course the highlight of this year, or the lengthier portions this year, were covered in General Economics 1, which of course I hope that you all have watched the live session that happened day before yesterday. Okay, so first things first, this paper was an easy one, but that doesn't mean that you need to be less alert about it, or you would think that, okay, it was an easy paper so it was easy to crack. No, it was in terms of easy paper, I mean that there were many direct questions. Okay, many direct questions which were taken directly from a theory, a concept, a terminology. Okay, right from part A to part C, plenty of such questions which were direct in nature. That's why I call it an easy paper. When we say the difficulty level has increased, it means that you look at the question and you can't figure out exactly what has been asked, or exactly what are the focus areas of a certain question. So this was not that type of a paper. This was an easier one where the questions were pretty direct. Okay, And once if you have given this paper, or if you are preparing presently and you would want to know on what basis you can identify whether a paper is easy or difficult, so there's a simple ideology which you all can also follow, where you can say that if there are pretty direct questions, so let's say in the live classes there are different documents which were shared to students to understand the terminologies, like what does what a type of question which starts from what represents, what discuss represents. Okay, so firstly you need to understand these terms, these are very important. But of course UPSC paper is unpredictable, so sometimes you will get a direct question, sometimes you will get a difficult question which has been asked, the keyword is directly given. Okay, the keyword is directly given, but you don't know the context of that question. Okay, so around all of these things we are going to talk today. Then second thing that we need to note about this paper is whether this paper was conceptual, okay, heavy on concepts, or was it theoretical, heavy on theories, heavy on terms, or was it practical. Okay, was it practical? I would say that it was heavy on theories. Okay, quite heavy on theories and terms. Then moderately concepts were given, and very less practical questions were given, very less. So if we want to make a sequence of how these questions are given, because it will never happen that you will have a full theoretical question paper or full practical question paper. There will always be some um, some gaps or some bridges which will connect one thing from the other, right? So which is why you can say that this paper, for this specific paper, it was more focused on theory and terms which you have studied in the syllabus. So that was like for the greater attention of it. Then you go for the concepts. Okay, and how are concepts different from theories? Theory is exactly what has been taught, for example a definition or a term, or like a something about the graph, or something about a diagram, or something about a any term, right, or a theory. But concept means what do you imply from it, what do you understand from a theory. So conceptual becomes that. And then practical means what do you imply, implication, impact of the theory, some factual things, some current affairs. So these three are different in this type of way you can segregate. Okay, now so we can say that then the last weight can be given to the practical type of questions. Okay, so that's something that was there. Then a very important question that you all must identify is, if a question paper looks easy, does it mean that you can solve it easily? No. Do you need to carry a casual mindset? No. You need to carry a questioning mindset, an inquiring mindset. Okay, an inquisitive mindset. Okay, inquiring mindset. Which means when you look at the paper, once you identify, okay, there are a lot of questions that start from what, and a lot of questions that have explain in front of them, means probably they are quite theoretical. But then what do I need to be? I need to be alert, because these are traps. When a question seems easy, you need to comprehend it properly, and you need to consolidate the answer properly. Easier question usually is a trap where students think that, oh, I know everything about this question, let me start writing. Either they would go beyond word limit, or they would go out of context, or they would write something extra which was not required at all, right? So looking at this perspective, we need to have a questioning mindset and an alert mindset, right? So this is the outline of this year's General Economics 3 paper, and we are going to discuss some important parts here which are related to growth, which are related to environmental economics as well as public economics policy making. Okay, different aspects which are not covered presently in the live are also going to be covered in some special sessions later. Okay, but presently what we are looking at is the uniqueness. This paper discussion is for identifying the uniqueness of the examination, uniqueness of the paper, and how do you look at a question. So basically building the perspective about a question. Okay, so let us start with a few questions. Okay, and meanwhile if you have any query, you can just quickly write in the chat box. Also, if my voice is unclear at some moment, or if my video gets blurred at some moment, just tell me so that we can fix it quickly and then we can continue, right? Okay. All right. Let's begin with part A. All right. Now, part A, what do you understand from part A? Part A means that there are 5 marker questions. Okay, questions that are of 5 marks, and how much do you need to write? About 100 words. So there's a word limit of 100 words. 100 words identify like hardly 2 or 3 paragraphs, 2 or 2.5 paragraphs, you can say. Okay, so here you need to identify that these 100 words should mean the most. Whatever you are giving as an answer should be the best foot forward, right? The first question of part A, how is an optimum tax rate defined? Okay, very direct question, and that's why I said that when you look at a question paper, you look that, okay, are there direct questions, are there theory or theoretical questions asked? Let me put my best foot forward, right? How is an optimum tax rate defined? What is the focus over here? Optimum tax rate. Okay, what is the context of this question? What are they asking? How is it defined? How is it defined? So what you need to give is, you directly need to give the meaning and the definition basically. Okay, you do not need to overcomplicate it, that, oh, I studied some numerical from a certain book, or I studied a certain equation from a certain book, let me write that. No need to do all of that. Just give a specific meaning to this question. Okay, when we talk about optimum tax rate, we usually talk it from the perspective of Laffer curve, right? Laffer curve, when we prepare that Laffer curve and the inverted U-shaped curve, we actually identify that point which can become an optimum tax rate, right? So basically an optimum tax rate becomes that type of tax rate which is neither too much as an expense for the people. It obeys the law of equity as a canon of taxation, right? And it also obeys the law of revenue, which means that tax should also be has an equal weightage to gain revenue from people. It should not over exploit, and it should not under provide. These are the 2 elements, very specific elements, that you need to focus. Now these are only 2 elements, not many words required, not many huge sentences required. It is only how you consolidate the answer and the terms in your mind and frame 2-3 sentences around it, right? Then for an addition, as an add-on, you can give a Laffer curve and you identify that, label it as Laffer curve. Okay, examiner should not misunderstand that, oh, optimum tax rate you wanted to draw, but you have drawn a curve which does not have any label. Don't do anything like that. Label it as Laffer curve, and at the point where you can put a point where the government earns maximum revenue and also it has a certain tax rate which is not exploitative, okay, which obeys the law of equity, that becomes optimum tax rate, right? Okay, so this is how you understand a question and provide an answer in 100 words. Got it? Now let's move ahead with another question. Question B. Explain with the help of an example. Here they have given themselves that you have to give an example. Okay, how non-user value matters in valuing environmental goods. Okay, now when you look at environmental economics theories and modules, we specifically focus on total economic value framework. We focus on use value and non-use value. So this is again a pretty much evident question, a very theoretical question, a very important concept that we learn in environmental economics module. Okay, and what you need to focus here is that what is the application, which means that how non-user value matters in valuing environmental goods. So technically you need to write the meaning and give an example of a non-user value. Okay, now non-user value has different terms also through which you can quote a good example or good examples. You can also build the whole answer through examples as well. Okay, so non-user value, the values that depict that it will not be of any use directly to the person, but still has a distinguished value, like an option or like a philanthropy, right, which means bequest. So terminologies are very important, and once you look at a certain theory, you need to identify that, okay, I just have 100 words. Let me consolidate my answer through terms and then give the example. I don't need to define non-user value here because they haven't asked for it. Okay, they have asked for what? Application of it. Got it? Are you getting my point? I hope you're getting my point. Okay, I hope you're getting how to answer questions which are direct in nature but in limited words with focus areas. Okay, now question number C, again an environmental economics question. What is hedonistic method of environmental valuation? Now a couple of students might think that, oh, valuation methods are asked in 5 marker, so we had studied so much and they have asked only in 5 marker. But now what can we do? If they have asked in 5 marker, it means that the idea behind is to consolidate, to be precise, to understand whether you know concepts like hedonistic method, whether you know concepts like travel cost method of environmental valuation. Okay, so again, identification mark is what? Means it's a direct question, simply asking the exact term, what exactly is hedonistic method. Okay, give as simple easy explanation as possible along with the example. Do not go overboard, because this is a valuation method and you may feel that I need to put my best foot forward, so I need to fit in all the things that I know about hedonistic method. Do not do that. Okay, Hedonistic method, you can tell whether it is a survey based method, whether it is a statistics based method, what is the type of method, why do we use it, how do we use it, what are the examples. Easy way to identify how those 5 marks are going to be given to you, straightforward. No beating around the bush. Right? Okay. Next, question number F. Justify that state and market are complementary, not mutually exclusive. Very interesting question, but is also like a philosophical question because it's a justify type of a question. Okay? Now, when you get such philosophical questions, when you have to think a lot, you understand that this is a googly. This is a time waster. Sometimes you need to identify such questions which can waste your time, because when you will leave time to think, you will not be able to write. Okay? So sometimes you can leave space, okay, or that leave that question, identify what are the different questions that I can do first, okay, go for it, and then maybe come back when you have enough time to think. Okay, in those 3 hours, I bet you, whether a paper is easy or difficult or moderate, UPSC will not give you enough time to think. So your mind and hand connectivity should be explicit and impeccable. Whatever you are thinking should be drawn from your hands onto the paper then and there. Only then it will match the momentum of this examination. If it is not matching somehow, it means that you're wasting the time on some question. Nonetheless, because it's a great question, let's talk about it. Justify that the state is what? The government or the authority, and market, okay, market means of course the market, are complementary and not mutually exclusive. Now the focus area of course is justify, so you do not need to start giving meaning of market and state and etc etc. Just go ahead with your answer, that why do you think it is complementary and not mutually exclusive. You can also add a factual example, that for, let's say, for example, when the government and the market go hand in hand and complement each other, the government is going to provide with such policies so that the market can flourish. If the government doesn't have conducive enough policies along with good regulation supervision, then what will happen? There will be less of governance, there will be maybe obstructions in the pathway of industrialists and businesses, and the market will not flourish both for producers and consumers, right? So this is a very practical question, and that's why it will take time to think. Okay, so because although it is an easy question, you will take time to think on how to develop your answer. No matter what you write, it is core subjective, so it will only be possible for you to write a great answer on this theme if you understand current affairs properly, if you know that how government and market function together, why it was important for us to open up our economy in the 1990s, why the government's ideology of closed economy was not to be continued, and why the government started to now having campaigns like Make in India, Startup India, and so many other schemes to make the market conducive. Are you understanding? This is complementary, not mutually exclusive. Okay? So that's what is part A for you. 5 marker questions, 100 words. Now, let's move ahead with part B. Part B, the highlight of part B is what? You will have 15 mark questions, okay? And you have to write in about 200 words, okay? The marks have more than doubled, but the word limit has only doubled. Okay, so it means what? It means that somewhere down the line the questions are analytical, conceptual, or theoretical, and you need to pay attention on the keywords so that you in the limited words can write a beautiful answer. You will also note that in some questions the 15 marks are going to be divided, let's say either 5 10 or 9 6, okay, or 8 7, any permutation combination. Why are they divided? Why they have given such division? So that you clearly understand the first part of the question, how many marks does it carry, how much do you need to write, and how much do you need to put your mind to it, and how much the second part of the question carries the weight. Okay, so this way you will be able to judge the question properly, right? All right. In the part B, there are a few questions that I have taken which were unique and which, of course, we had somehow uh, taken care of a lot. These are contemporary topics, and that's why questions on this was very, very natural, and they have given beautifully made questions. Okay, now let's look at question number 4. Critically examine the role of social cost benefit analysis in the context of formulating a public investment decision. Okay, it's almost a direct question. All right, now question number 4, what is the focus area? Can you identify what is the focus area over here? Usually what happens is when students see this term, critically examine, okay, when students look at this term, what happens? They say, oh, critically examine, we need to be critical about it, or critically evaluate this social cost benefit analysis, critically examining, writing the negative points and the positive points. No, this question's focus area is examining the role of social cost benefit analysis, the role, which means you need to highlight the critical role of it, the important role of it, how and why social cost benefit analysis is important for formulating any public investment decision. If there is a huge decision to be taken for producing, for constructing a bridge, a great huge bridge, okay, there are a few bridges that have been recently opened up for people in India as well, long bridges, huge bridges connecting points 1 and 2, A and B, or a huge highway, okay, or any type of thing like roads or public transportation. These are public investment decisions, okay, where public money is also invested, the government's idea thinking is also invested, where the public investment decision is also been made for benefiting maximum people and delivering the maximum services. Okay, so in this way social cost benefit analysis is very critical. Okay, cost benefit analysis itself is a critical aspect. Social cost benefit analysis meaning that where we also apply the cost benefit analysis to look at the social characteristics, the social features of the cost benefit analysis, and then take the public investment decision. Should we construct a dam at such place or not? Should we elevate the should we increase the height of a certain dam? Why or why not? What are the implications? What are the negative implications? What are the positive implications? When these are highlighted in the paper, in this answer, you will correctly identify the note of this question. So you do not need to critically evaluate anything. You have to be identifying, examining the critical role, the important role of social cost benefit analysis. Right? Again, examples, factual examples like I gave you a few are very important. Okay? Now, let's move ahead with the next question. And another question which again in the live classes also was put a lot of focus on certain concepts and theories. Okay, it's not a new theory that has been asked, but the context is very contemporary, very current. Let's understand what has been asked. Explain the Hotling's theory of non-renewable resources. Okay. And in this context, explain how optimal allocation of non-renewable resources may be achieved. Two parts. This question was divided into 9 and 6. Okay. First part where you explain Hotling's theory of non-renewable resources, okay, which means management of resources, that's 9 marks, and 6 marks given to the application, that how optimal allocation of non-renewable resources can take place. Now, when you look at such mark segregation, you can also identify how many words or how much of the content you need to deliver for each of the part, right? So that's very important. Context, precision in explanation, meaning that when you explain the theory, don't go overboard, and also continue explaining the theory along with the next part of the question. You need to segregate. Hotling's theory of non-renewable resources, when you write, there are certain points, assumptions and points that you highlight, that this theory is based on management of critically non-renewable resources, which are perishable, which are exhaustible. Most of the examples run around coal, fuel, oil, etc. Right? Which we know that after certain years are not going to be there. So then, what's the next thing? How do we manage? This theory is not about exhaustible resource management, okay, which is usually when students write about how exhaustible resources can be replaced by renewable resources. No, this theory is not about that. This theory is about resource management and optimal prices, right? What should be the pricing of such non-renewable resources? This theory focuses on that, which gives this theory a very unique characteristic, right? If coal has to last for a couple of years or some years, or fuel, oil has to last for some years, what should be the optimum prices at which it should be sold, so that the producer or the person or the, let's say, the entity who holds that non-renewable resource should also benefit in an optimum way, and the resource also should not exhaust. Imagine that coal prices, we know that coal is a non-renewable resource, okay? Let's say that the producer or the keeper, someone who is selling coal, okay, or selling oil sellers, you all know, okay? Now let's say a certain country who sells oil to different other countries keeps the price exceedingly high so that it can earn maximum revenue, maximum profit. What will happen? Renewable resource lasts long, non-renewable resource will just exhaust. Even if the prices are high, what is the use? You need to identify the sustainable path so that the prices and the resources match till the longest of the time, and the producers can take advantage of that sustainable path. Are you getting my point? So this is the context of this theory, and this is very theoretical question, but again the application part to be written in a very contemporary manner with examples. Okay. Next question that I also found very interesting. How is climate change altering the pursuit of economic development in global south? Now firstly, global south, okay, identifying what are the countries that specifically are there in global south is very, very important, right? So the Caribbean countries, the Latin American countries, the African countries, and some other countries which are like island countries which do not have a solid economy, underdeveloped or developing countries basically, okay? Now what's happening to those countries? The development has to start in these countries, but because of climate change problems, the problems or negative impact of climate change, the development is not happening. when the development starts to happen, immense drought happens, or immense flooding happens, or some kind of glacier um, is some kind of avalanche, or some kind of natural calamity, some kind of earthquake, massive earthquake. Because of these climate change issues, because of these problems that are taking place consistently, the development is obstructed. Now, climate change is happening because of man-made problems, because of anthropological reasons, okay? But they were done by mostly developed countries or developing nations or development. So it's like there's a circular path. We call in economics vicious circle of poverty, but it's, if you look at it in the environment also, there's a vicious circle where you go for development, but because you're going for development, you will require to industrialize, you will require to cut down trees, you will require to do certain man-made activities which will hamper environment, which will impact the environment. When environment gets impacted, the environment is going to backbite the development process by problems that are forced by climatic change. Now, this is a huge issue in these different countries of the global south. Okay, now here you need to be very much in sync with current affairs. Okay, this is not a question which you can just bypass by just giving some theoretical answer. Here, factual examples, facts, current affairs, countries which are facing such issues, what issues they are facing, some incidents, very important. Okay, but like I said, the context of this question is what we just discussed. Okay, all right. Now let's move on to part C. Part C, again, very beautifully presented by UPSC. Very good questions, very interesting questions, although they were quite theoretical questions. But in those theoretical questions also, when a student really learns everything, studies the syllabus properly, listens to the faculty, listens to the mentor properly, and takes guidance, the student always is going to get those questions in the examination which work in favor of that student. And the reason is very simple. You have understood what UPSC desires from you, the kind of intellect is desired from you, right? Now, two good questions or two unique questions, I would say, in part C. Part C consists of 20 marks, which also again can be divided, segregated into some or the other permutation combination, and about 300 words. Okay, 300 words means that you have a bigger responsibility. When you have a lesser word limit, what happens is you're already your mindset is already prepared that okay, I have to write less and deliver more. But in 300 words, when you start looking at the questions, you start being lesser alert and calmer during that question paper thing, during that 3 hours. But 300 words means more responsibility on you, because each of that word will mean that you are getting chunk of marks which are going to go into your merit score. These bulky questions with bulky marks are going to actually decide your merit score. That's why these questions need to be taken very seriously, and the answers need to be taken care of much more. Right? Okay. Question number 14 I have picked. Okay. Which is better? Which is better? Okay, I'm sorry. Just a second. Okay. Which is better? Carbon tax or cap and trade? Now here, cap and trade, if you haven't analyzed or read concepts in depth, or if you haven't been alert in the examination hall, you will not comprehend what cap and trade is. Okay, but if you use some, alertness, okay, some alertness, you will immediately identify what exactly they are asking about. So basically what they are asking about is the taxes, carbon taxes, okay, versus what? Versus carbon permits. So since last 2-3 years they have been asking questions related to permits, carbon permit, pollution permit, etc, etc. This time they have interestingly switched this question into not a differentiate between question. Okay, this is not a differentiate between question that you just make a T table and just start writing differences. No, here they are asking you to justify which is better, what do you think is better. So you have to apply logic and then give your answer that I think this is better. Whatever your answer would be, if your logic is correct and if your logic is strong, you will get good marks. So there is no right or wrong answer until you justify properly. I'll give you a small example of this. Carbon taxes are basically where you are obstructed, the industries are obstructed, or they are let's say the doors for the doors are closed due to taxes. Why do you pay taxes, or why are taxes levied? So that they can stop you from something. Okay, what are carbon taxes? So that these taxes are levied so that they can stop industries from polluting more. They are stopping, right? But when you say permit, what does permit do? Permit means providing. So that's the minute difference. Carbon permits are for trading, okay, but eventually they are also permitting or allowing industries to pollute. In this streak of development, permits are very viable, right? If you talk about economically, they are very important, because when the trade will happen, when the industries will flourish, when they can pollute more, they can produce more, etc, etc. Of course, there is a cap, there is a ceiling to it, how much you can permit, how much the authorities can permit to pollute. But a carbon tax disallows, it does not provide that type of an action. If you are producing a lot of pollution, if it goes beyond a certain mark, you have to pay the tax. So a carbon tax is going to actually provide a disutility to industries, and the industries will say, oh, either they will have to reduce the production of certain goods which are polluting, which are causing a lot of pollution, or they will start thinking about newer technologies through which they can reduce that pollution and reduce the carbon taxation. But with cap and trade, this type of uniqueness is not there. It's all about economic interest, okay, and market and trade. So what do you think is better? What do you think is better? Yes, I feel if you think from sustainable angle, carbon taxes are better, and we have a logic to it. But you need to pick one. Justifying your answers means you need to pick something with logic, because they have asked which is better. If you say nahi, both are good, neutrality means you're not picking anything, you're not picking both, you have to pick one and justify it. Okay, so I am sure that this question, you got this question and got the context of this question. Okay, part C, last question of this session that I wanted to pick, question number 16. This is again a very big thinker, okay, very unique, very interesting question. I thought that Oh my god, students are going to think that, oh, this is a great question, let me attempt it. And when they'll start attempting it, they'll think, oh my god, we are stuck, because it's a highly intellectual question. It is being increasingly believed that development planning is no longer relevant in today's context. In today's context, development planning is no longer relevant. It is being increasingly believed. They have given a premise to this question. Okay? Usually, premise are given in logical reasoning type of questions, usually aptitude type of questions. You know that premise can be correct or incorrect. Okay, there is no justification that it always has to be correct. Now the question is, if you go in favor of this premise, you actually get logged into the googly question. It is being increasingly believed that development planning is no longer relevant in today's context. Have you heard any such news that people are not talking about development planning? People are not talking about planning at all. Have you heard recently? If planning was not a very important part of anything, then I think management schools would have not been there at all. So if there is so strong importance of management because of so much variety of things that are taking place now in today's context, this premise is wrong. They have given you a googly question, so you do not have to agree to it and justify why development planning is important. Not required to go for theoretical answer. You need to go with logic. You can go with some flow chart where you can identify some pointers how development planning is important and how planning with development is important. For example, for India today, industries play a huge role, or industries would play a huge role in the coming 10 years if it was not planned. Okay, what is Niti Aayog doing? What is Planning Commission doing? These are examples that development planning, whether back in the day or today, is important, right? So here factual examples, factual things will be more appreciated. Appreciation will be given by the examiner if you write the justification of why you do not agree with this. Okay, while not agreeing with such a proposition, such a premise, what you need to do is you need to give your own opinion. You you should not go with, there are certain economists who might not believe with this or who might not agree with this, but I agree. This type of statements you do not need to write. These are shabby statements. You need to put your point. They have given you an opportunity, clear cut, to give your opinion for 300 words. Game changer question. If you attempt it rightly, you get great marks and of course good merit. Okay, so that's it for today. I think we discussed almost all the different unique questions that were there in the examination of Indian Economic Service paper GE3. Okay, and tomorrow we are going to have another session for General Economics 4 paper Indian Economics by Sanat sir. It's at 12 p.m. afternoon, so you all should attend that as well, because you will find various current affairs very much integrated with the questions that have been asked, and again a very big game changer, paper 4. Okay, so I hope that this session would be fruitful for you. You must have gained a lot, and I will see you soon with more such sessions along with other subject experts. So till then, stay tuned to Ecoholics.